So Chris Waldrop, who's a senior health scientist at FDA, has that quick overview for us. So Chris, I'm going to start talking. Would you start? I will stop. Will you start?
I will, yes. Thank you. I'll be happy to start talking, and I'm going to share my screen here. And really what we want to do is just very quickly run through the resources that are available on FDA's website. There are a couple new ones. We wanted to flag those. But many of you are probably familiar with these, but we have found in some cases people are like, oh, I didn't know that was on the website. So just trying to kind of level set and make sure everyone's aware of all the different resources we have made available. So the first, this is our food traceability rule webpage. We do house all our resources here or link to them from here. So this is kind of a one-stop shop for everything that we have on the rule and put out publicly. A couple quick things to note. We've tried to translate most of our materials into different languages. So this page, you can see it's translated in 5 different languages. And we've done that throughout on many of the different materials. We have at the very top of this page the link to the Federal Register, which is the rule itself, including the preamble and everything. One of the things that I use this all the time, particularly when I'm trying to find, what did we say on this particular issue if people ask questions. And I've found that Control F is a great tool there. So for example, if I want to look about things on commingling, I just can type in commingled and then be able to work through that, work through the rule and find out where we've talked about commingled racks, for example. So we do that all the time. Highly recommend that if you're trying to look, what did FDA say about this particular topic on the rule? That's a good way to kind of look for it. Another very good resource that we use all the time is the electronic Code of Federal Regulations, and this is where the rule is in itself and all the different provisions. This is just the rule, and so it's again a very useful tool for us to be able to look through and either cite a provision, and you can do direct links. So, for example, if I want to show somebody what the traceability plan requirements are, you can click on this little button over here to the left, and it gives you the citation, it gives you the direct URL. And that's a good way to kind of share information and give people the direct information about particular provisions in the rule. So another really handy resource that I use all the time. So then moving down this page, all these different drop downs have a lot of different resources. I think many of you all have seen this one. It's sort of a quick way for folks to kind of start getting started with the rule and familiar with the rule with links to the kind of the relevant the list, traceability list, the exemption tool, and traceability plan, et cetera. The food traceability list, of course, we link to from here and have a full page on the list. This is the most recent and up-to-date list, and so any updates we might make to this or have made to this will definitely be on this page. Another thing I just wanted to flag was a little further down, we have information about the risk ranking model for the food traceability rule, and a link to an online tool. And this is, if you haven't seen this, this is the risk ranking model as an app on our website. And it really does allow you to kind of search if you want to search for different commodities or different types of food, or find out, okay, is this particular commodity on the list or not? It's a helpful tool where you can use the search bar and search for other things that might be in the model, but maybe weren't necessarily on the list. Moving down a little bit more, we have the full and partial exemptions, and this links to our exemptions tool, which I'm sure many of you all have used. Again, another tool that we put out there that's helpful for folks to use, where you can walk through and we have them grouped into different different sort of areas, and so you can click through those different areas and see whether a exemption, a partial exemption, or perhaps no exemption applies to your particular situation. So we know lots of folks have used this tool and found it very helpful, but just wanted to flag it again. The next thing we wanted to mention is this drop down on modified requirements, exemptions, and waivers. So these are the provisions in the rule that allow for FDA on its own initiative or for an outside entity to petition for a modified requirement or exemption. And we kind of lay out the basics of that here. And then you all may have noticed that we put out a proposed exemption for cottage cheese regulated under the pasteurized milk ordinance. And so that exemption we have linked to here as well. And so any other exemptions that may occur or that may be proposed, you'll be able to find them under this link. Same thing with waivers. This again is the provision in the rule that we summarize sort of the requirements of that provision and how to submit a waiver. And if any waivers would be submitted, we would also include them down here. So kind of a one-stop shop for those types of things and information on how to apply for those. Critical tracking events and key data elements. Here we link to our clickable PDF that you all have seen. We've gotten great feedback on this and know many people have used it, but it really is a good way to identify all the different critical tracking events at the top. And then if you click on those different tabs, it gives you the KDEs that are required for each of those critical tracking events. So another tool that's available and helpful for folks to use. We also have many supply chain examples that we have put up here and continue to update. These first three, the produce, seafood, and cheese, were the original ones we put out when we put out the rule. And we have since added supply chain examples as we've heard from folks that they have questions, how does this work? How does that work? And so we've tried to add additional supply chain examples as the need has arisen. So for example, for deli salads and sprouts is a new one that we just updated. And then some of these other ones, such as canned tomatoes and aquaculture tilapia and shell eggs, et cetera. The next tab is the traceability lot code page. This is, again, fairly recent. Wanted to provide a little bit more information about traceability lot codes. What are they? What are some examples of them? Same thing with traceability lot code source, better explaining that and providing some examples, as well as the traceability lot code source reference. And then we add some additional information and link to how this might be used on a bill of lading, for example, or an invoice. So providing some examples there. We have two examples for our traceability plan. Again, people were asking, what does this look like? How do I put it together? And so what we did is we put together an example traceability plan for farms, an example traceability plan for restaurants. And so this is the restaurant one. The first page lays out the requirements of the rule for a traceability, under the rule for a traceability plan. And then the second page is what a traceability plan could look like for a restaurant. So it doesn't have to look like this, but people were asking for examples. And so we wanted to show how they might meet the different requirements there in terms of identifying how the procedures you maintain your records, how you identify foods on the list, how you assign traceability lot codes, et cetera. So another example there that folks could use and rely on. We also, this is hot off the press, just brand new yesterday, we posted this. This is an electronic sortable spreadsheet template. A lot of folks have been asking for this. And so this is, we were able to get this out yesterday. If you click on this Excel button, this will allow you to download an Excel version of electronic sortable spreadsheet. And then we have a PDF version as well. But this is something that folks can download and use. They don't have to, it's not required to use that particular electronic sortable spreadsheet, but we do know people were asking about it and wanting to see an example or have a template, and so this template is available for folks to use. We're not going to walk through it today, but definitely are happy to answer any questions with that maybe in the future if you want to kind of walk through that. We do have guidance for industry, so our small entity compliance guide here is posted here. And linked to from this page. So this is sort of a kind of a plain language version of the rule. It's a sort of question and answer session that we did as part of the requirements for small entity compliance guides. This will also be the place where we post a link to the guidance that we are developing whenever that is complete. So this will be a place where if you're looking for the guidance aspects, that they'll be under that tab.
Hey, Chris, we've got a question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Can we pause and take that right now, Raquel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just two things actually, Chris. One is when you're done, can you let us know kind of what other resources are in the pipeline for you? Because these are excellent, and I'd rather know that they're coming from you instead of having to create them all of us internally and then send them out. And then the second thing, Susan, I don't know if there's an opportunity, knowing that this is being recorded, just to separate Chris's part, because again, instead of recreating this and then sending it out as my own little visual to our company, it'd be great to have this already done. So just those two.
Yep. Chris, we can talk about that, but Raquel, great idea.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you.
And we'd edit this part out.
Good.
Yeah. And I could even re-record if we needed to. So, but yeah, that's a great idea. And yeah, we will. I'm happy to touch on the coming resources in a minute. So the frequently asked questions, links to our frequently asked questions page. This is, we update this regularly, and we do so based on the questions we get. So when industry sends us questions and we're starting to see some of the same questions come through, or ones that we think are particularly useful for other people to know about, we turn them into frequently asked questions and post them on this page. You know, there are other questions that we have to go through the guidance process because they require sort of interpretations or a little bit more explanation. But for the most part, we try to get as many of these FAQs as we can. One great tool that, again, I use all the time is the search bar right here at the top, where if you want to search for a particular topic or phrase, you can do that. So one of the things that came up last time was a question about franchise, you know, how does this affect franchisee owners or franchise owners? And so we do have a couple questions there about that issue. And so it's a really great tool to use. I think fines was another one that somebody asked about. And so there are even questions there about, you know, what is the penalty for not complying with the rule? And we talk about the fact that FDA is not authorized to issue fines as a penalty. So some good just ways to search this. And the other thing I want to point out is that we do have this, we did add this date on the right-hand column, so you can look and see what are the newest ones. So when we update them, you can see what's the latest, what's new, and that's a good way to search via date. Finally, the Contact Us page, I wanted to just mention, if you click on this button, many of you all have used this already, and that's great. But this will take you to our Technical Assistance Network, where you can submit a question to the Technical Assistance Network, and we will do our best to answer that as quickly as we can. So I know that's, many of you all have used that already. The other thing that many of you all have used as well, but just wanted to flag, is a meeting request form. So if you do want to meet with FDA or have a meeting with FDA, and you know, we've done a lot of these, you can click on this button that says Meeting Request Form, takes you to this page, and then you fill out this form. Gives a little bit of information, so we have a sense of kind of what you're interested in, what you're asking, who's asking, you know, what the audience is, and then we can then you email it to us based on this little button here, and then we can figure out who are the right people to be able to attend that meeting, and we can get that set up. And then moving down a little bit further, I mentioned translation. So all the materials that we have translated are all listed here. It's a pretty long list. But you can see that they're, you know, what languages they're translated into, and then you can click on that link and it'll take you to that information, and you can share that information. And then finally, we do have some additional information here at the bottom. A few things in here are things like a few fact sheets we have for retail food establishments and restaurants, a couple fact sheets we have for produce farms, and then a couple links to the risk ranking model, for example, and then another link that is fairly new that we put out. And this was requested by folks who were kind of doing some education on the produce part of the food traceability rule, and we're trying to talk about what are the exemptions that are in the produce safety rule versus what are the exemptions in the food traceability rule. And many of them are the same because we tried to mirror some of those exemptions in the produce safety rule, but there are some differences based on the rule and some of the different aspects of the different rules. So we just kind of put together this little fact sheet to help people understand, you know, where some of those exemptions are similar and where they might differ. So that was a new thing that we put out recently. And then two last things I wanted to share with you that aren't linked from here, but are relevant to the new era of food safety and some of the work we're doing that's sort of associated with the food traceability rule. This is a video we put together on our product tracing system. And this is the system we are going to be using internally to analyze and receive and analyze any traceability information that is provided to us from industry or from states, for example. And so this video kind of gives you a sense of how that system is going to be working. We just thought this might be useful for software providers or others in the industry that are developing their own systems. We talk about things like the data standard we're using called EPCIS, as well as our data visualization platform that is by Food Chain Lab. So just sort of a little bit more into the technology aspect that we thought folks might be interested in terms of how we're setting up our internal system. And then last but not least, the low-cost food traceability challenge that we put together, where we list some of the folks that participate in that challenge. And we have an IFT report that talked about that challenge, as well as a video series that we've been putting together that focuses a little bit more on some of those folks that provided some of those ideas around lower cost traceability solutions. So another aspect that's more on the new era side, but is related to sort of the technology area for the food rule. So those are all the resources we have on the website now. We of course are going to be working on more FAQs as they come up. I mentioned the guidance that we're working to develop, and then we're kind of interested in what other issues folks would like to see. So that's something I think if you want to drop it in the chat, or if we can maybe set aside time at another, I know we have a tight schedule today, but another opportunity to kind of talk through some of those things that you would like to see. I think we're kind of open on a lot of that. I mean, we have a few ideas in terms of additional supply chain examples or other areas, but would love to get some input on that and see what you think would be most useful and how we could be helpful. So I will stop there, see if there are any other questions, or Susan, if you want to move on to the next part of the agenda.